Following the absolute debacle that was the Iowa caucus, the chairman of the Iowa Democratic Party has resigned his position. Now, in a letter to the party's state central committee obtained by Bloomberg News, and by the way, Bloomberg, of course, is backed by and created by Mayor Bloomberg, who is a candidate in this race. So that, of course, has to be pointed out. Look, in this letter, Troy Price, who was the Iowa State Democratic Party chair, had apologized for what happened with the caucus results and said that he, quote, bore the responsibility for any failures on behalf of the Iowa Democratic Party. So now what happened? Well, for one, we had gigantic delays. It was about a week until we found most of the results. Not only that, but there were errors, inconsistencies in results. Candidates being awarded delegates that they had not earned, an app that completely failed, Trump trolls somehow getting access to the phone number used by caucus chairs to call in the results. It was, by all accounts, a complete and utter shit show. It was a disaster. Now, there were huge problems aside from the app. Now, with the count, for example, where the IDB put up results, didn't match what the caucus chairs were reporting. That was revealed on Twitter. So now the only reason that we got to see those results, by the way, is because there were people that prepared for this, that prepared for some sort of DNC truth. These are people that were, by the way, the DNC has basically nothing to do with this. It was the IDP, the Iowa Democratic Party, that actually does this caucus. So that you don't get confused about who is mainly to blame here. The caucus chairs made sure to take pictures of all of their ballots to make sure that they matched up with the official results. They did not. And so that was one of the discrepancies that was pointed out on social media. Now, that led, of course, the AP, all these different issues combined, led the AP and other news organizations to avoid calling the race for anyone, despite the fact that Pete Buttigieg was taking a literal victory lap. Now, it also led to scrutiny of a company behind the app that had failed, which was appropriately named Shadow. Shadow, of course, had billionaire donors backing from Pete Buttigieg donors, one of them being Seth Klarman, who, again, as a big Buttigieg backer, billionaire donor, gave a lot of money to Buttigieg, but also gave money to this app or to the developer of this app. Not only that, but you also had the Buttigieg and the Biden campaign that had paid this company through contracts. And so, I'm not saying that they gave money to the app so the app would fail. No, I'm just saying that, look, they had contracted this company that created the app in order to do work for them. And now, again, you could say, look, it's a 100% conspiracy. But wait, Joe Biden also contracted that same company. So I don't think it has anything to do with that because Joe Biden finished in last, fifth. So, but anyway, look, these are all sorts of problems, right? Not only that, but it was started and supported by Clinton staffers. Also really important, right? Now, the app was also rushed out the door without being fully tested and ready to go. It had multiple coding errors, which of course led people to unable to be to sign in or to send any sort of results, leading to caucus chairs having to phone in those results, while at the same time the lines were being bombarded by Trump trolls. How did they get the number? I have no idea. Again, all of this together is a complete and it is a complete and utter disaster, right? Complete incompetence. Who made these decisions? Well, a lot of the blame you can lay squarely on the shoulders of Troy Price. Now, Price himself, for his role, has gotten a lot of scrutiny on his past record as well, which could be considered by many as evidence of bias, not in favor of, but against certain candidates. Price is a veteran Iowa political operative who was Hillary Clinton's 2016 Iowa political director, so working directly in the Clinton campaign. Now, interestingly enough, Price had gotten a lot of heat from Clinton supporters back in 2016 as it pertains to the caucus system. And you know what? I actually agree with their complaints. Caucuses are generally undemocratic because they actually involve or require a very long commitment time. So look, everybody that's complaining about caucuses, and you have people that are in the Hillary Clinton camp that complain about caucuses, and you have people in the Bernie camp that also complain about caucuses. And you know why? It's because caucuses are bad. They're terrible. And the reason is, of course, is that not everybody can be involved. Not only that, but the rules are confusing, as we've seen in Iowa. It excludes working people because not everybody has all day to spend at a caucus site. And so, again, all those evident, examples of it being undemocratic and all those arguments are absolutely true. And so the Hillary Clinton supporters and the Bernie supporters both got together and said, yes, caucuses are terrible. We actually need to do something better. Now, Price and the IDP, in the lead up to this, they made some changes, right? Now, one of their ideas was satellite caucuses. Now, they didn't get rid of the caucus, which they should have, and replace it with a primary. I would rather have a primary system in place, right? But their idea was a satellite caucus. Now, what's ironic about this, right, is that a satellite caucus is something where they try to include more people who are off-site, who are in different places at different times, whenever there's enough people to get together, right, to report a caucus. Well, it's supposed to make the system more democratic. And what happened? The satellite caucuses actually were favored in this race towards Bernie Sanders. He actually performed the best in the satellite caucus. According to the New York Times, in the final preference vote in all the satellite caucuses, Bernie Sanders crushed Buttigieg by a staggering 47-7%. Awesome. Now, here's the issue, right? He did so well in the satellite caucuses. Well, how come Pete Buttigieg has more delegates at the end? That's because nobody knew how to count them. There weren't clear rules on how much weight to give them, how many delegates to give from the satellite caucuses. And if they were basically weighted the same when it came to delegate counts, well, then Bernie Sanders would have absolutely crushed Buttigieg in delegates. And it would have clearly 100% won the state and had been awarded more delegates. Now, Bernie Sanders did win the state. He won by 2,500 votes, the popular vote. But somehow Buttigieg gets 2 more delegates. So again, that leads to the, hey, wait a minute, this seems really, really off and really wrong. And I do agree with that. Now, it's kind of funny that the very thing designed to make the process more democratic, and it was, but it's still not as good of a primary, ended up favoring Bernie Sanders, and yet somehow nobody knew how the process worked. I'm not saying conspiracy. I'm just saying the way that this was done, the sheer amount of incompetence, coincidences, as well as people with connections to party insiders making money, sure makes it easy to make into a conspiracy, and that's not a good thing. And so, yeah, I think that Price was likely asked to step down by everyone else involved. Now, the thing is, getting rid of one guy is not going to solve any of the problems with the Iowa caucus. There has to be some sort of substantial systemic reform. But with only one person leaving and the rest of everybody involved still in place, save for the former head of the IDP, well, I doubt we're going to see any sort of reform, at least for right now. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com patreon.com/TYT Nation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.